Chapter 1. Spirit Beast transforms into human, broadcasted live via sky screen. Duluo continent. The moonlight was like water, and all was silent. Deep in the dense forest, a vine glowing with a faint blue light was undergoing an astonishing transformation. Its body was like carved amethyst, entwined with fine golden thunder patterns. At this moment, it was shrinking and condensing at a speed visible to the naked eye, emitting a heart-palpitating thunderous aura. This was the Thunderclap Hell Vine, a top-tier thunder attribute spirit beast that could draw heavenly thunder to temper its body, taking 1,000 years to take form and 10,000 years to become a spirit. Deep within the soul of this Thunderclap Hell Vine, Qin Feng slowly woke up, feeling the surging power of the thunder element within his body and the memory fragments of this world flooding into his mind. Duluo continent. I actually transmigrated into a Thunderclap Hell Vine. Qin Feng's consciousness gradually became clear. He was originally an ordinary youth from Blue Star, inexplicably bound to a book transmigration system, and had already traveled through and experienced multiple novel worlds. In his previous life, he transmigrated as a Taoist genius, painstakingly practicing the Five Thunder Correct Law, until he finally mastered it. Subsequently, he was sent to this world by the system and merged into this Thunderclap Hell Vine that was about to transform. The familiar mechanical voice in his mind suddenly sounded. Host has transmigrated to the Duluo world, soul fusion is complete, and transformation is about to begin. This transformation process will be broadcasted live via the sky screen to the entire Duluo continent. Before Qin Feng had time to think, a majestic power erupted from within his body. The vine body rapidly transformed, and thunderous light soared into the sky. At the same time, above the firmament of the Duluo continent, a wondrous sight suddenly appeared. The night sky that had just fallen was like being torn apart by an invisible hand, unfolding a huge light screen that spanned across the horizon. It was boundless, no matter where one was on the continent, as long as they looked up, they could clearly see the scenes within the light screen. Spirit City, Supreme Pontiff Palace. Bibi Dong was discussing important matters with Yu Guan and Gui Mei when she suddenly sensed something and flickered outside the palace in an instant. The three of them looked up at the sky simultaneously, their faces showing expressions of shock and suspicion. Is this a heavenly phenomenon? The Seven Treasure Glazed Tile School, the Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon Clan, the Clear Sky Sect. Major forces were alerted one after another. Within the light screen was precisely the process of the Thunderclap Hell Vine's transformation. Deep in the Stardow Great Forest, that amethyst vine emitting a terrifying thunderous might was shrinking, surrounded by countless thunder snakes, condensing into a blurry human silhouette. The thunderous light grew brighter and brighter, illuminating the surroundings like broad daylight, and the air was filled with a thick aura of destruction. Is this the Thunderclap Hell Vine? Outside the Elder Palace of Spirit Hall, the seven priests, including Qian Daoliu, all looked up at the sky. The well-informed gold crocodile Duluo recognized the origin of this spirit beast and gasped. 100,000-year spirit beast transformation. No, how could a Thunderclap Hell Vine live for 100,000 years? Looking at the transforming Thunderclap Hell Vine, gold crocodile Duluo couldn't help but let out a cry of amazement. As far as he knew, a Thunderclap Hell Vine with 10,000 years of cultivation was already extremely rare. This was a top-tier existence among plant-type spirit beasts, requiring the absorption of thunder power to increase its cultivation. Because they could not withstand it, most would self-destruct between 20 to 50,000 years. Now, such a miraculous 100,000-year Thunderclap Hell Vine had appeared. In the light screen, the thunderous light gradually converged, revealing the figure of a youth. The youth looked to be about 15 or 16 years old, with a tall and straight build, his naked upper body covered in fine purple gold thunder patterns, and long silver hair falling down, with sparks of electricity faintly jumping at the tips. The handsome youth slowly opened his eyes, and a flash of purple lightning passed through his pupils, causing the hearts of countless experts watching through the light screen to skip a beat. Post-transformation complete, the original, Thunderclap Hell Vine, has been converted into human form, retaining the thunder origin and innate abilities. Host's current status. Level 10 spirit power, limited by human form, must condense a spirit ring to continue improving. Transformation protection period, 30 days. Hearing the system's prompt, Qin Feng looked down at his hands, feeling the thunder element power racing through his body. In an instant, a large amount of profound information flooded into his mind. It was precisely the Five Thunder Correct Law he had mastered in his previous life. The general principles of the manual surfaced in his heart. The human body is a small universe, communicating with the external large universe. Refine essence into chi, refine chi into spirit, refine spirit into void, 5 chi towards the origin, and the spirit merges with the Tao. The 9 heavens passes, one level after another. Upon the completion of the 9th level, one can control the thunder of heaven and earth and execute punishment on behalf of heaven. The power of thunder summoned by the thunder law is actually transformed from one's own essence, chi, spirit, and the chi of the 5 elements. The 5 chi in the human body are the chi of the 5 internal organs, governed by the true heart and primordial spirit. The chi of the 5 internal organs is connected to the thunder of the 5 elements of heaven and earth, which is an important foundation for internal alchemy cultivation and the practice of thunder laws. The heart corresponds to fire thunder, the liver to wood thunder, the spleen to earth thunder, the lungs to metal thunder, and the kidneys to water thunder. To practice thunder laws, one must hold on to the innate primordial chi, emphasizing one's own primordial spirit's nature as the basis for performing the techniques. Only in this way can one reach the supreme realm of the unity of heaven and man. Qin Feng's heart surged with excitement. In his previous life, he had already mastered the 5 thunder correct law. Now that he had come to the Duluo world and possessed a powerful physique like the thunderclap Hellvine, which naturally came with thunder power, doing it all over again was simply like adding wings to a tiger. First layer. Drawing thunder into the body. Qin Feng silently recited the key formulas of the technique, and with a thought, the thunder element power in his body began to circulate according to a specific path. The thunderclap Hellvine was originally a top-tier spirit beast that grew by absorbing thunder power, and the thunder element power accumulated in its body was as vast as the sea. Now, under Qin Feng's guidance, these powers were no longer chaotic but rapidly gathered and condensed, turning into streaks of pure thunder true chi, racing and flowing along his meridians. Crack. The thunder patterns on Qin Feng's body surface suddenly lit up, and small purple electric snakes emerged from his body, surrounding him. The free-floating thunder elements in the air were also drawn, gathering from all directions to form light purple spots visible to the naked eye, merging into his body. Teacher, what is the situation? At Shrek Academy, Tang-san and the others were all bewildered as they watched this scene in the sky. This is a 100,000-year spirit beast that has just transformed into a human, a thunderclap Hellvine. Thunderclap Hellvine. Spirit beast transformation. Tang-san was very unfamiliar with Yu Xiaogong's explanation. This was the first time he had heard of and witnessed a spirit beast transformation with his own eyes. He didn't know why its transformation process was being displayed before the world. Teacher, then what is he doing now? Yu Xiaogong shook his head, his brow slightly furrowed. I don't know either, it seems he is cultivating. At this moment, Xiao Wu, who had been silent all along, suddenly said. He is condensing a spirit ring. As a 100,000-year spirit beast who had also transformed into a human, Xiao Wu naturally knew what that mysterious youth was doing. At this moment, Xiao Wu was also incredibly excited. The process of this 100,000-year thunderclap Hellvine transforming into a human, as well as the energy that erupted when he condensed his own spirit ring, was far beyond what she had experienced during her own transformation. Condensing a spirit ring. Everyone turned their gaze toward Xiao Wu in unison. Xiao Wu nodded and explained. After a 100,000-year spirit beast transforms into a human, they have level 10 innate spirit power and do not need to obtain a spirit ring by hunting spirit beasts, they can condense a spirit ring themselves. Chapter 2. Condensing a 10,000-year first ring, the whole world is shocked. Everyone looked at Xiao Wu, shocked by her explanation. A spirit beast transformed into a human was actually born with innate full spirit power. This kind of talent would be top tier even among human spirit masters. Xiao Wu, how do you know all this? Tang-san turned his head and looked at Xiao Wu with some doubt. Xiao Wu's heart skipped a beat, and she quickly lowered her head to hide the panic in her eyes, stammering. I happened to see it in a theory book. Some records mention certain characteristics of the early stages of a 100,000-year spirit beast transformation. Xiao Wu didn't dare say more, for fear of exposing her identity. Although Tang-san treated her extremely well. She knew clearly that the natural chasm between spirit masters and spirit beasts was difficult to cross, even for the closest people. Tang-san nodded slightly and didn't ask further. He trusted Xiao Wu, since she said so, it must be true. But there was still some doubt in his heart. Even his teacher Yu Xiaogong, who was known as the Grand Master of Theory, couldn't explain this sign, yet Xiao Wu happened to know about it. Tang-san quickly pushed this doubt to the back of his mind and looked back up at the sky screen. At this moment, the scene in the light screen was even more shocking. Deep in the forest, Qin Feng had entered a state of self-forgetfulness. Inside his body, the power of the lightning element was being continuously refined into thunderbolt true chi, traveling through his limbs and bones, tempering every inch of flesh and bone. The constitution of the thunderclap Hellvine was already incredibly strong, and now, under the tempering of the thunderbolt true chi, it was undergoing an essential sublimation. Refining essence into chi, initial completion. Qin Feng had an epiphany, and his consciousness sank into his dantian. There, the originally scattered lightning element power had turned into a fist-sized purple cyclone, slowly rotating. This constitution with lightning power is indeed different, cultivation is twice as effective with half the effort. The first stage of the 5 thunder correct law, drawing lightning into the body, is easily mastered. Next, it's time to condense the first spirit ring. Qin Feng took a deep breath, and the thunderbolt true chi inside him erupted, soaring straight into the sky. Boom. At some point, the night sky had become covered with dark clouds, and lightning snakes flickered within the cloud layers, as if summoned by some force. He can actually summon heavenly lightning. What is he doing? Using heavenly lightning to temper his body. Countless experts watching the sky screen cried out in shock. Every spirit master knew that the power of lightning was the most masculine and positive force, domineering and peerless. Ordinary spirit masters would be injured by a touch and die upon contact. The blue lightning tyrant dragon was hailed as the world's #1 beast spirit precisely because it possessed violent lightning power. Even powerful lightning attribute spirit masters wouldn't dare to easily draw heavenly lightning into their bodies for tempering. Yet the youth in the light screen actually took the initiative to summon heavenly lightning. Even for a 100,000-year spirit beast, in the early stages of transformation, the body is only about the same as an ordinary human spirit master. Doing this was no different from seeking death. Crack. A purple bolt of lightning tore through the night sky and struck straight down, its target being the cross-legged Qin Feng. Qin Feng didn't dodge. Instead, he opened his arms to meet the heavenly lightning. Boom. The lightning light completely swallowed him. The blinding purple light made the audience in front of the sky screen squint their eyes. Where the lightning landed, the trees within a 100-meter radius were instantly turned to charcoal, a deep pit was blasted into the ground, and smoke and dust filled the air. Is he dead? Everyone stared at the sky screen. As the dust gradually cleared, Qin Feng's figure was revealed. He still maintained his cross-legged sitting posture. His bare upper body was not damaged at all. Instead, the purple-gold lightning patterns around him were even brighter, vaguely forming a profound lightning Tao diagram. More shockingly, above his head, a spirit ring as deep as ink was slowly rotating and taking shape. Even through the screen, one could feel the terrifying pressure contained within. Black, a 10,000-year spirit ring. Across the entire Duluo continent, countless spirit masters watching the sky screen gasped in unison, their eyes almost popping out of their sockets. The first spirit ring is a 10,000-year one. How is this possible? Within the 7 treasure glazed tile school, Bone Duluo Gu Rong cried out. Ning Fengji's expression was also grave, finding it unbelievable. A 10,000-year first ring, unprecedented. Sword Duluo Chen Xen's gaze was sharp as a sword, staring intently at the slowly rotating black spirit ring in the light screen, and said in a heavy voice. Moreover, this spirit ring is probably not of simple 10,000-year quality. Although ordinary 10,000-year spirit rings are strong, they definitely don't have this kind of oppressive feeling like a majestic heavenly might. Ning Fengji nodded silently, vaguely feeling that the sky of the Duluo continent was about to change. At Shrek Academy, on the playground. Dead silence. Tang San, Dai Mubai, Oscar, Ma Hongjun, Xiao Wu, Ning Rongrong, Zhu Zuqing, as well as Yu Xiaogang, Flender, Zhao Wuji, and others, were all looking up at the light screen in the sky, their faces full of shock. A 10,000-year first ring. Oscar's voice was trembling, he rubbed his eyes, thinking he was hallucinating. I didn't see it wrong, right? Black, it really is a 10,000-year spirit ring. BL Black, the first spirit ring is a 10,000-year one. How is this possible? Not only is the spirit ring 10,000-year, did you guys notice the lightning patterns on that spirit ring? Flender adjusted his glasses and shook his head. In the entire history of the continent, I've never heard of anyone having a 10,000-year first spirit ring. No, it's simply impossible. A spirit master's body simply cannot withstand the energy impact of a 10,000-year spirit ring. Xiaogang, doesn't this go against common sense? Is it just because he is a 100,000-year spirit beast transformed into a human? Yu Xiaogang's face was grave. He was known as the Grand Master, having spent his life studying spirit and spirit ring theories, believing his understanding of the spirit master system far surpassed ordinary people. But the scene before him completely overturned his knowledge. First spirit ring, 10,000 year. This violates the basic laws of spirit master cultivation. According to the theory of the spirit master's body endurance limit, the limit for the first spirit ring is 423 years. How could it be? How could it be? Could it be that I got something wrong somewhere? Yu Xiaogang clenched his fists and muttered to himself. This was not just because of shock, but also because of the impact and panic of a theoretical system being completely overturned. Xiaogang, is this youth really a 100,000-year spirit beast transformation? Yu Xiaogang took a deep breath and forced himself to calm down. From the transformation process, it is indeed the thunderclap hellvine without a doubt. And the fact that he can condense his own spirit ring after transforming also fits the characteristics of a 100,000-year spirit beast transformation, but even for a 100,000-year spirit beast transformation, the self-condensed spirit ring usually starts from a 100-year one and gradually improves according to the depth of cultivation. Directly condensing a 10,000-year spirit ring is unheard of. Moreover, his method of summoning heavenly lightning to temper his body and condense a spirit ring is simply inconceivable. Zhao Wuji scratched his head and said in a gruff voice. Whatever he is, this kid is very strange. Damn it, a 10,000-year first ring, if he grows up, what will happen? He's simply more terrifying than our genius little San. Everyone's eyes fell on Tang San simultaneously. Chapter 3. Tang San, a transmigrator more awesome than me. At this moment, Tang San's mind was also greatly shaken. He stared fixedly at the rotating black spirit ring in the light screen, and at the silver-haired youth beneath it, whose body was covered in faint thunder patterns. His pupils contracted to the extreme. A 10,000-year first ring. It was like a heavy hammer smashing ruthlessly against his understanding of the world. He possessed the secret techniques of the Tang sect and twin spirits, he considered himself exceptionally talented and believed he would surely stand at the pinnacle of the continent in the future. But this mysterious youth before him was showing him what it meant to defy the heavens in an almost brutal manner. Spirit beast transformation, self-condensing spirit rings, and its 10,000 years. Tang San muttered to himself, his thoughts spinning rapidly. The system he practices doesn't seem to be spirit power. That method of invoking heavenly thunder to temper his body, it looks like the thunder law from Taoist legends. As a Tang sect disciple in his previous life, Tang San had dabbled in Taoist culture. Especially in the Tang sect's hidden weapons and mechanics, some Taoist concepts of yin-yang and the five elements were utilized. Seeing Qin Feng invoke thunder to temper his body and condense the thunder pattern Tao diagram, he vaguely felt that it was a power older and closer to the Tao than the spirit power system. Could he also be a transmigrator from another world? A strong feeling surged inexplicably in his heart. This mysterious youth reminded Tang San of those legendary cultivators from his past life who seized the luck of heaven and earth and acted against fate. If that were truly the case, this person would surely become a pivotal figure stirring the winds and clouds of the Duluo continent in the future. Third brother. Xiao Wu's voice sounded softly, carrying a hint of imperceptible trembling. Tang San snapped back to his senses and turned to look at Xiao Wu, finding her face somewhat pale and her eyes evasive, as if she were uneasy. Xiao Wu, what's wrong? No, it's nothing. Xiao Wu hurriedly shook her head, forcing out a smile. It's just too shocking. I didn't expect he could condense a 10,000-year first ring in the early stages of transformation. Stormy waves had already risen in Xiao Wu's heart. As a fellow 100,000-year spirit beast transformation, she knew the difficulty and limitations of self-condensing spirit rings better than anyone. In the early stage of transformation, the body is no different from a human's, and spirit power is only at rank 10, being able to condense a 100-year spirit ring is already the limit. Like her first spirit ring was only of 100-year quality. But this youth transformed from a thunderclap hellvine had not only invoked heavenly thunder to temper his body but had even condensed a 10,000-year spirit ring. The majestic heavenly might contained within that spirit ring made her soul tremble even through the light screen. This was definitely not something an ordinary 100,000-year spirit beast could achieve. What, exactly is his background? Xiao Wu's heart was filled with doubt and a hint of inexplicable fear. As a fellow spirit beast, she could feel an aura on that youth that commanded instinctive awe, as if he were not of the same kind, but an incarnation of thunder itself. Tang San looked again at Yu Xiaoging beside him. Yu Xiaoging gradually recovered from his shock and sighed softly. The thunderclap hell vine grows by absorbing the power of heavenly thunder. Among all plant-type spirit beasts, it is the most resilient existence. Every time they absorb the power of thunder, it is like undergoing a heavenly tribulation. A 10,000-year thunderclap hell vine must have been tempered thousands of times by thunder, let alone a 100,000-year thunderclap hell vine. Therefore, after transforming into a human, his body's resilience far exceeds that of human spirit masters, allowing him to withstand the energy impact of a 10,000-year spirit ring. Yu Xiaogong's explanation seemed well-founded. Everyone nodded one after another. Xiao Wu suddenly said, absorbing a 10,000-year spirit ring requires withstanding not only the energy impact but also a powerful mental shock. Because he is a 100,000-year spirit beast transformed into a human, his mental force is also far beyond what ordinary spirit masters can compare to. Xiao Wu is right. Yu Xiaoging continued. This beast is destined to be extraordinary, his appearance will break all common sense. Everyone's attention refocused on the light screen in the sky. Deep in the forest. With a thought from Qin Feng, that 10,000-year black spirit ring entwined with purple thunder patterns instantly merged into his body. So I have my first spirit ring, and it's a 10,000-year level. It went even smoother than expected. Qin Feng felt the surging power contained within the spirit ring, the corners of his mouth turning up slightly. This self-condensed spirit ring was of a quality far superior to ordinary 10,000-year spirit rings. It not only contained the power of several bolts of heavenly thunder he had invoked but also integrated the Taoist charm of the first layer of the 5 thunder correct law, thunder induction into the body. It perfectly matched his own thunderbolt true chi, it could be said to be tailor-made. Because of this, he obtained his first 10,000-year spirit ability, heavenly thunder induction. When used, it can invoke the power of heaven and earth's thunder for a locked-on attack. The locked target will suffer a strike from the most young and rigid heavenly thunder, accompanied by paralysis, evil breaking, and annihilation effects. Damage is doubled against evil and dark attribute targets. This spirit ability can be used for both single target and area of effect attacks. The single target attack deals even greater damage. Qin Feng's spirit power also broke through naturally after the spirit ring was condensed, reaching rank 16 directly. Under everyone's gaze, Qin Feng slowly stood up. With a casual wave, he took out a simple set of green robes from somewhere and put them on. His silver hair fluttered lightly in the wind, with flashes of electricity appearing at the tips. Qin Feng looked up toward the distance. Those eyes, swirling with purple electricity, seemed to pierce through the light screen, making eye contact with the countless spirit masters watching the scene. An invisible pressure spread out through the light screen. Qin Feng knew that from the moment his transformation into a human was broadcast live to the entire Duluo continent by the sky screen, his situation was no longer safe. 100,000-year spirit beast in its early transformation stage already had a 10,000-year spirit ring. Such a powerful existence would naturally attract greedy human powerhouses. No one could resist the temptation of a 100,000-year spirit ring and spirit bone. He would surely become a target for those powerhouses to hunt. Therefore, he had to become stronger in the shortest possible time to deal with the incoming powerful enemies. Having transmigrated through multiple novels and being the protagonist many times, Qin Feng was long accustomed to the fate of protagonists. The growth path of every protagonist is covered in thorns. It is precisely through various trials that a protagonist can become stronger. Defeating powerful enemies along the way is a necessary path for a protagonist's growth. Coming to the Duluo world was no different. Qin Feng was already mentally prepared. Just then, the system's prompt sounded in his mind again. Host has condensed the first spirit ring, evolvable spirit power increased to rank 16. Due to the huge sensation caused by the Sky Screen live broadcast, obtained plus 10,000 emotion points. With a thought, a virtual interface that only he could see appeared before his eyes. It was the system's built-in shop. It was still the familiar flavor. Emotion points could be used to exchange for various special temporary skills, such as flight, invisibility, teleportation, etc. However, those special abilities were expensive. A single use could easily cost tens or even hundreds of thousands of emotion points. Most of the skills were prepared for his novice protection period. Once his strength became great enough, he wouldn't need those at all. Having transmigrated through books many times, Qin Feng had long understood one truth: relying on the system is not as good as relying on oneself. The system is ultimately just an emotionless assistant. Only oneself can dominate everything. After roughly looking at the temporary skills available for exchange, Qin Feng closed the system interface. The novice protection period was only 30 days. Not a single second could be wasted. He already had a plan for the next step. Chapter 4 Bibi Dong, capture him alive, take his spirit ring and spirit bone. After Qin Feng stood up and left, the light screen that had spanned the sky for a long time began to slowly fade and become transparent. Rippling like water, it eventually dissipated completely into the night sky. Night enveloped the earth once more, the starlight dim. On the training grounds of Shrek Academy, everyone still looked up at the sky, speechless for a long time. Everything they had seen tonight was deeply etched into the depths of everyone's soul. 100,000-year thunderclap Hellvine transforming into a human, tempering his body with heavenly lightning, and condensing a 10,000-year first spirit ring on his own. Any one of these was enough to overturn the understanding of the Spirit Master's world. And when all these converged in a single person, the impact was unimaginable. Yu Xiaogang slowly recovered from the shock. His face was still pale, but his eyes had regained their depth. He fell silent for a moment, his gaze sweeping over the Shrek 7 devils before finally landing on N.A.N. The world is vast, and wonders are many. Geniuses and monsters will emerge in succession. Only strength is the foundation of one's survival. Children, we must speed up our cultivation. Yes. N.A.N. nodded heavily, a fierce fighting spirit igniting in his eyes. The appearance of that mysterious youth seemed to have opened a window for him, allowing him to glimpse a higher and wider world, and further strengthening his resolve to become stronger. He quietly clenched his fists and thought to himself. No matter your origin or what power you possess, I, N.A.N., will never fall behind anyone. Xiao Wu looked at N.A.N.'s resolute profile, but a shadow cast over her heart. The figure of that silver-haired youth was like a nightmare, lingering in her mind. Being a spirit beast herself, she had a faint feeling that a massive change sweeping through the entire spirit beast race might have already begun because of him. And where should she go from here? Just then, Oscar suddenly spoke up. 100,000-year spirit beast transformation, that's 100,000-year spirit beast. He must carry 100,000-year spirit ring and spirit bone. And he has just transformed. While his potential is great, his strength might not be that high. He will surely become a target for all the major powers to hunt down. That goes without saying. Setting aside everything else, Spirit Hall will never let him go. Ma Hongjun took over the conversation, a hint of unconcealed fervor flashing in his eyes. A 10,000-year spirit bone is already a priceless treasure, let alone a 100,000-year one. He is also lightning attributed, practically tailor-made for lightning attribute spirit masters. Perhaps the Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon clan has already made a move. The speaker might have meant nothing, but the listener took it to heart. Flender subconsciously looked at Yu Xiaogang beside him. Tang San and the others were still unaware that Yu Xiaogang came from the Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon clan. At this moment, the waves in Yu Xiaogang's heart, which had just slightly calmed, were stirred up once again. That 100,000-year thunderclap hellvine that had transformed into a human was indeed the most suitable existence for a lightning attribute spirit master. If one could obtain his spirit ring and spirit bone, a spirit master's strength would surely undergo a qualitative leap. Yu Xiaogang thought of his father, the clan head of the Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon clan, Yu Yuanjun. Yu Yuanjun had already collected 9 spirit rings, and with his spirit power as high as rank 95, he naturally no longer needed a spirit ring. However, once a spirit master reaches rank 95, every step forward is like crossing a heavenly chasm. If he could obtain a 100,000-year spirit bone that perfectly matched his own attribute, then his father would very likely break through the bottleneck and enter the realm of a peak Duluo above rank 95. At that time, the status of the Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon clan would surely advance further. Yu Xiaogang then thought of his second uncle, Yu Luomian. With his second uncle's greed and ambition, there was no way he would let this 100,000-year spirit bone slip by. Not just the Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon clan. Spirit Hall, the Clear Sky Sect, the 7 Treasure Glazed Tile School, and even other powers on the continent have likely set their sights on this youth. A bloodbath surrounding the 100,000-year spirit bone might already be brewing in the shadows. Yu Xiaogang sighed softly. Children, you are right. The appearance of this transformed spirit beast is destined to stir up the winds and clouds of the entire continent, and may even incite countless bloodbaths. However, these matters have nothing to do with you for now. Everyone, do not be distracted, focus your energy on your own cultivation. Yes. Listening to others discuss the situation of that strange youth, Xiaowu couldn't help but think of herself, her heart fluttering with panic again. To avenge her mother, she had risked sneaking into the human world. If her identity were exposed, what kind of miserable end would await her? At this moment, she actually felt a bit lost. Should she continue down this path? The night sky was like ink, and the starlight was sparse. A wave that was about to sweep across the entire continent had quietly begun its prologue at this moment. Spirit City, Supreme Pontiff Palace. Inside the magnificent and solemn Supreme Pontiff Palace, Bibi Dong sat high upon the Supreme Pontiff's throne, her scepter lightly tapping the ground, producing a crisp and cold echo. In the light screen, the heaven-defying scene of that silver-haired youth bathing in thunder and condensing a 10,000-year spirit ring on his own seemed to still be burning in her deep purple eyes. A 100,000-year thunderclap hellvine, transformed into a human, tempering his body with heavenly lightning, and condensing a 10,000-year first spirit ring on his own. Such an anomaly is too heaven-defying. If he is allowed to grow, he will surely become a grave threat to humanity in the future. He must not be allowed to reach maturity peacefully. Bibi Dong's gaze fell upon the 2 titled Duluo standing in attendance below. Yu Guan, Gui Mei. You 2 set off immediately to search for this child's whereabouts. The primary objective is to capture him alive. Yes, Your Holiness. Chrysanthemum Duluo and Ghost Duluo responded in unison. Both elders knew very well that Supreme Pontiff Bibi Dong was determined to obtain this 100,000-year spirit beast that had transformed into a human. Bibi Dong possessed the Death Spider Emperor and Soul-Eating Spider Emperor twin spirits. The 9 spirit rings for her first spirit were already complete, with the 9th ring being at the 100,000-year level. Her second spirit currently had only 6 spirit rings. If she could obtain a 100,000-year spirit ring as her 7th ring, her strength would surely advance further. She would never allow this 100,000-year spirit beast to fall into the hands of outsiders. A look of contemplation flashed across Gui Mei's shadow-like face as he spoke. Your Holiness, I believe the search area can perhaps be narrowed down. Looking at the scenes in the light screen, the mountains and forests are dense, and the climate is not extremely cold. First, we can rule out the frozen forest in the far north. While the Sunset Forest has many spirit beasts, its environment and energy levels make the possibility of nurturing a natural wonder like the 100,000-year thunderclap hellvine extremely low. The most likely place is the Stardow Great Forest, where spirit beast species are most complete, energy is most abundant, and top-tier lightning attribute spirit beasts are most likely to appear. Bibi Dong nodded slightly, clearly approving of this judgment. Elder Ghost's words are reasonable. You 2 lead the elites and set off for the Stardow Great Forest immediately to search. Remember, act in secret, but if you encounter other powers competing for him, show no mercy. He must not fall into the hands of others. Yes, we understand. Additionally, Bibi Dong added. To be safe, send another team to the Sunset Forest for a detailed investigation. No possibility should be overlooked. As you command. Yu Guan and Gui Mei took their orders and withdrew from the Supreme Pontiff Palace. Chapter 5. Major powers take action, a bloodbath is coming. 9 Dragon Mountain, Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon Clan. Inside the main hall, where thunder faintly echoed, the atmosphere was heated and restless. The impact brought by the light screen was particularly direct and intense for this upper 3 sex family, which was renowned for its lightning attribute. The purity and dominance of the lightning attribute in a 100,000-year spirit ring and spirit bone from a thunderclap hellvine is likely unrivaled in the world. A clan elder's beard trembled with excitement. If our clan can obtain it, no matter which clansman absorbs it, their strength will undergo a world-shaking change. It's more than just the clansman. Yu Luomian's eyes shone brilliantly. He stepped out from the crowd and bowed with cupped hands toward his elder brother, clan head Yu Yuanjun, who sat in the main seat. Big brother, this is a God-given opportunity. That transformed spirit beast has just taken human form, and its power is not yet stable. This is when it is most vulnerable and easiest to capture. Its attribute perfectly matches our blue lightning tyrant dragon. It is simply a treasure sent from the heavens to our clan. As Yu Luomian spoke, he looked around at everyone, his tone becoming more emphatic. Even if we don't act, will Spirit Hall just stand by and watch? Will the 7 treasure glazed tile school remain indifferent? Even, the Clear Sky sect, which has been banished for years, if they hear the news, wouldn't they be tempted? When the various factions start competing, if we fall behind, we won't even get a sip of the soup. We must strike first to gain the upper hand. Yu Yuanjun sat as steady as a mountain, with dragon-shaped lightning faintly flowing around him. He was already a rank 95 attack system titled Duluo with a full set of spirit rings, so he had no need for another one. But just as Yu Luomian said, a top-tier 100,000-year lightning attribute spirit bone would be of immeasurable help in breaking through the shackles he faced after rank 95. More importantly, if this bone could be obtained, no matter which top combatant in the family absorbed it, it would raise the overall strength and deterrence of the Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon clan to a new level. Not only would it solidify their position in the upper 3 sects, but it might even give them a chance to compete for the title of the number 1 sect in the world. As the clan head, Yu Yuanjun had to guard the sect and could not leave easily. After a moment of contemplation, he spoke in a deep voice. What Luomian says is not without reason. This item is fated for our clan and is also an opportunity for us to grow stronger. Since you have volunteered for the task, you shall lead a team. Select capable clansmen and set out immediately to search. Remember, the primary goal is to confirm its location. It would be best if you can obtain it quietly, but if you encounter other forces, prioritize seizing the spirit bone, but do not clash head-on with Spirit Hall. Yes, rest assured, big brother, I will not fail you. A smile of certain victory appeared on Yu Luomian's face. With a flash of lightning, he impatiently turned to select his men. Tilde 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 tilde. Clear Sky Sect. Atop a steep mountain peak shrouded in mist, the atmosphere was solemn inside the ancient and majestic Clear Sky Sect meeting hall. The situation shown in the light screen had shocked this sect, which had been hidden for many years. Sect Master Tang Xiao sat in the main seat, his face resolute and his gaze like lightning. Below him, several white-haired elders looked serious. 100,000-year spirit beast transformation, self-condensing a 10,000-year spirit ring, this is unheard of. This youth must contain the principles of heaven and earth and infinite potential. His spirit ring and spirit bone are of inestimable value. More importantly, the sect master's clear sky hammer inherently carries the power of thunder. A top-tier 100,000-year lightning attribute spirit bone might help you break through the rank 96 bottleneck and touch an even higher realm. As soon as these words were spoken, the eyes of the elders lit up. The Clear Sky sect had been in seclusion for years, and although its foundation remained, it was no longer as world-renowned as it once was. If Sect Master Tang Xiao could use this opportunity to make a great leap in strength, it would undoubtedly bring hope for the sect to return to its peak. Sect Master, do not hesitate any longer, this is feasible. The 7th Elder, Blazing Sun Duluo, had the most fiery and direct personality. He suddenly stood up and said loudly. Those fellows from Spirit Hall and the Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon clan must have already moved. We can't just wait around. Let me go down the mountain, I will surely bring that boy back. The other elders looked at each other and nodded slightly. Blazing Sun Duluo's clear sky hammer carried its own fire attribute, and his strength was formidable. Although he had a hot temper, he was decisive in his actions, making him a suitable candidate for this mission. This trip needed to be secret and not done with great fanfare. A titled Duluo acting in the shadows was enough to handle most situations. Tang Xiao looked at the 7th Elder and said solemnly. 7th Uncle, this matter is of great importance, so I will have to trouble you to go personally. You must hide your tracks and investigate secretly, focusing on the Stardow Great Forest. If you find the target, act when the opportunity arises. If you encounter a powerful enemy, prioritize your own safety. Rest assured, Sect Master. Blazing Sun Duluo grinned, his eyes filled with a mix of battle intent and greed. My clear sky hammer hasn't tasted the blood of a powerful enemy in a long time. Before his voice had even faded, he had already strode out of the meeting hall, his figure quickly disappearing into the mountain mists. Tilde 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 tilde. 7 Treasure Glazed Tile School, Main Hall. Ning Fengji sipped his fragrant tea, his elegant and refined face wearing its usual gentleness, but deep in his eyes was a sense of clarity and sharpness. Sword Du Luo Chen Xin and Bone Du Luo Ji Yu Rong stood beside him like statues. Fengji, that transformed spirit beast has already been revealed to the public. Right now, Spirit City, 9 Dragon Mountain, and even those other sect forces are likely already experiencing surging undercurrents. Ji Yu Rong took over the conversation. Naturally, 100,000-year spirit bone, especially one of the top-tier lightning attribute, is something no force could remain unmoved by. Ning Fengji set down his teacup and nodded slightly. You are right. Spirit Hall acts overbearingly, they have surely sent people out, and it is very likely that the Chrysanthemum and Ghost Elders are working together. The Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon clan itself is of the lightning attribute, so they won't let this pass. Even, the Clear Sky sect, which has been in hiding for years, might secretly be making a move. As Ning Fengji spoke, he stood up and looked out at the night sky. Although my 7 Treasure Glazed Tile School is famous for support, the strategic significance of a 100,000-year spirit bone far exceeds the individual boost it provides. It can create a peak combatant and influence the sect's status for decades to come. Naturally, we cannot stay out of it. Ji Yu Rong took a step forward. Fengji, let me go. In terms of concealment, stealth, and taking people away, my bone dragon spirit has certain advantages. Old Bone is right, he is indeed more suitable for this kind of mission. Chen Xin nodded, agreeing with Ji Yu Rong's proposal. Ning Fengji turned and looked at Ji Yu Rong, who had volunteered, his eyes showing trust and decisiveness. Very well, then I will have to trouble Uncle Bone for this trip. The goal is not necessarily to fight for it, but to seek an opportunity. If you can be the first to obtain it without anyone knowing, that would be best. If the situation is complex, then wait for your chance. Remember, if you encounter a powerful enemy, do not linger in battle, prioritize your own safety. Understood. I'll go prepare and set out tonight. Before Ji Yu Rong's voice had finished, his figure had already become illusory, as if merging into the shadows, his voice drifting away. The hall fell silent again. Ning Fengji looked out at the heavy night sky and sighed inwardly. This powerful transformed spirit beast will surely cause a bloodbath. The continent, which has been quiet for many years, is finally going to see waves again. Chapter 6, Cultivating 5 Organs Thunder Containment, Immortal Herb Assistance. The core area of the Stardow Great Forest, the Great Savage Land. The dense mist of the Lake of Life could not completely mask the shocking aftershocks brought by the light screen just now. By the lakeshore, several figures radiating terrifying auras stood in silence, the very air seemed to have frozen. Leading them was a tall, burly middle-aged man dressed in black martial attire with a cold expression. He stood with his hands behind his back, his golden vertical pupils gazing at the sky where the light screen had vanished, his eyes filled with unconcealed shock and solemnity. He was the strongest land spirit beast beneath the current co-lord of spirit beasts, the golden-eyed black dragon king, beast god N.A.N. Behind N.A.N. stood several existences with equally monstrous auras. There was the king of the dark golden dreadclaw bears, Shang Jun, who was burly with arms that nearly reached his knees and eyes brimming with murderous light. There was the demon-eyed magic tree, Wan Yao Wang, who seemed to be formed from countless ancient vines and branches intertwined, possessing a deep and eerie aura. There was the emerald swan, Bai Ji, who possessed a gentle temperament and was shrouded in an emerald-like radiance of life. There was the Scarlet King, shaped like a 3-headed demonic hound, his body burning with dark red hellfire. They had all just witnessed the entire process of the 100,000-year thunderclap hell vine transforming into a human youth, drawing down heavenly lightning to temper his body, and condensing his first 10,000-year spirit ring on his own. Drawing heavenly lightning to temper the body, condensing a 10,000-year first ring on his own. N.A.N.'s voice was low like muffled thunder as it echoed by the silent lakeshore. For this thunderclap hell vine's transformation to trigger such a phenomenon. N.A.N. had lived for over 800,000 years and had seen the rise and fall of countless spirit beasts and many strange occurrences. But what he saw tonight still made it difficult for his heart to remain calm. This completely exceeded his inherent understanding of spirit beast transformation, and even the rules of heaven and earth. 100,000-year level thunderclap hell vine. There was actually such a fellow hidden in this forest. How did I never sense it? Shang Jun spoke in a booming, muffled voice, his tone laced with disbelief. I have guarded the Lord here for many years, and I too never noticed it. N.A.N. slowly shook his head, his gaze profound. The thunderclap hell vine is a miraculous thing nurtured by the power of heavenly lightning. Its growth is extremely dependent on heavenly lightning. Every time it absorbs lightning, it is both growth and a life or death tribulation. For its cultivation to reach 50,000 years is already as rare as phoenix feathers or unicorn horns, a miracle. To survive 100,000-year heavenly tribulation is simply an existence that defies the heavens. Wan Yao Wang picked up where N.A.N. left off. Perhaps, he obtained some unimaginable opportunity, avoiding or enduring several fatal lightning tribulations to accumulate such cultivation. Precisely because his origin is so deeply intertwined with the power of lightning, he could trigger such a large-scale celestial phenomenon during transformation and directly condense his first spirit ring from his lightning origin. This is no longer a common transformation, it is more like a metamorphosis and reshaping of his origin. Back then, Wan Yao Wang had relied on devouring an immortal fairy herb to evolve into the strongest plant-type spirit beast. A trace of worry flashed in Bai Ji's eyes, and she said softly. Regardless of how strange the process was, the result is set. He is now in a human body and is in his most fragile juvenile stage. Even more troublesome is that the entire process of his transformation was publicized to the entire human world by that eerie light screen. His identity as a 100,000-year spirit beast is completely exposed. At this moment, who knows how many human experts are casting greedy eyes toward this forest. Shang Jun snorted coldly. Since he chose to transform into a human, he has cut himself off from the spirit beast race and turned his heart toward the human world. Whether it is fortune or woe, life or death, it is his own choice. What does it have to do with us? Why bother worrying about him? You can't say that, Shang Jun. Bai Ji shook her head gently and continued. He is, after all, born of spirit beasts and carries a 100,000-year spirit beast origin. If he is hunted by humans and has his spirit ring and spirit bone extracted, it would not only be his tragedy but also a loss of great potential for our spirit beast race. Shang Jun grinned, revealing forest white sharp teeth. Bai Ji, you are just soft-hearted. The strong prey on the weak, that is the principle of heaven and earth. He chose his own path, let him bear the consequences. Enough. The long silent N.A.N. finally spoke again, his voice carrying an unquestionable majesty. He looked around at the several great beasts and said slowly. The thunderclap hell vine is an anomaly among plant-type spirit beasts to begin with, its path of growth is even more difficult than ours. To reach 100,000 years is already changing one's fate against the heavens. Even if he didn't choose to transform, with his trait of relying on heavenly lightning and facing constant tribulations, it would be absolutely impossible for him to survive the even more powerful 200,000-year heavenly tribulation. Transforming into a human might be the sliver of life he saw in a desperate situation, perhaps a choice of helplessness. As N.A.N. spoke, he looked toward the night sky at the outskirts of the forest, as if he could pierce through the layers of dense woods to see that newly born silver-haired youth. He was born of my forest, and his transformation phenomenon has stirred the world. Regardless of his intentions, his karma with the Stardo Great Forest is already established. Pass down the order, have the high-level spirit beasts in the forest pay close attention. If his tracks are found, or if he is perceived to be hunted by human experts, try to protect him once, provided we do not expose our core existence or trigger a full-scale conflict with humans. After all, it would be a pity for such a special kinsman to perish prematurely. Yes, N.A.N. Bai Ji was the first to comply, her gentle eyes showing relief. Although Shang Jun disagreed, under N.A.N.'s might, he did not speak out in opposition again. Wan Yao Wang nodded silently, and countless leaves swayed slightly, quietly transmitting this order to the depths of the forest through a unique method. The Stardo Great Forest, this ancient land, was destined not to be peaceful after witnessing the birth of a kinsman who defied the heavens. Tilde 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 tilde. Qin Feng's figure streaked through the air like a purple stream of light. He had spent 3,000 emotion points to exchange for a temporary flying skill in the system mall, valid for 24 hours. At this moment, he was flying at high speed toward the Sunset Forest 1,000 miles away, preparing to implement the next step of his plan. For an ordinary spirit master, traveling from the Stardo Great Forest to the Sunset Forest would take several days even at high speed. But with Qin Feng's current speed, he could reach his destination within a day. He was going to the Ice and Fire Yin-Yang well. This was the most critical step in his cultivation of the five thunder correct law. The first stage, drawing thunder into the body, had already been mastered. Qin Feng was about to begin cultivating the second stage, five organs thunder containment. This stage was the core of the five thunder correct law, and its difficulty was not even inferior to the final ninth stage. It required the lightning qi taken into the body to be nurtured in the five viscera according to the principles of the five elements mutual generation and overcoming. The heart nurtures fire thunder. The liver nurtures wood thunder. The spleen nurtures earth thunder. The lungs nurture metal thunder. The kidneys nurture water thunder. The five viscera become the source and conversion center of lightning energy, forming an initial internal five elements thunder cycle. This was equivalent to needing to form five internal cores within the body. The prerequisite for cultivating this stage was the need to strengthen the corresponding heart, liver, spleen, lungs, and kidneys. In his previous life, even as a genius of the Taoist sect, Qin Feng had spent a great deal of time and energy on this stage. However, once this barrier was broken, not only would his physical fitness be improved in all aspects, but his strength would also achieve a qualitative leap. More importantly, the subsequent stages would follow naturally and be much easier. What made Qin Feng feel fortunate was that for the extremely difficult 5 organs thunder containment, there seemed to be a shortcut in this world. And that was consuming immortal herbs of the same attributes to use their medicinal effects to condense the powers of metal, wood, water, fire, and earth, accelerating the formation of the cores. Chapter 7. Entering the Ice and Fire Yin-Yang Well, broadcasted by the sky screen. Qin Feng knew that from the moment his human transformation was exposed by the sky screen, he had become a target for the human powerhouses to hunt. Therefore, he had to become stronger as quickly as possible. In the Dulua world, as long as one has good resources, they can rapidly increase their strength without relying on bitter cultivation. Immortal herbs, high-level spirit rings, spirit bones, and so on. Among them, immortal herbs are undoubtedly the greatest opportunity. So, Qin Feng was going to the natural cornucopia known as the Ice and Fire Yin-Yang Well. Relying on his memories, he could identify famous immortal herbs such as the octagonal mysterious ice grass, fiery apricot jiao shu, yearning heartbroken red, strange velvet sky-reaching chrysanthemum, yuxiang kiluo immortal item, coxcomb phoenix sunflower, silk tulip, narcissus jade muscle bone, 8-petal immortal orchid, autumn water dew, snow white swan kiss, and 9-grade purple ganoderma. He also knew the methods of consumption and the medicinal effects of these immortal herbs, which was enough. Although the Ice and Fire Yin-Yang Well was guarded by Dugu Bo, a powerhouse at the titled Duluo level. However, the system had given him a protection period, allowing him to exchange emotion points for temporary skills to ensure his own safety. Time passed quietly. From night to day, and then until the sun set in the west. Elders Yu Guan and Gui Mei from Spirit Hall, Yu Luomian from the Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon Clan, the 7th Elder Blazing Sun Duluo from the Clear Sky Sect, Bone Duluo Ji Yu Rong from the 7 Treasure Glazed Tile School, and other factions coveting Qin Feng's 100,000-year Spirit Ring and Spirit Bone were rushing toward the Star Do Great Forest. At this moment, Qin Feng had already arrived at the Sunset Forest, 1,000 miles away from the Star Do Great Forest. The sunset glow dyed the horizon a blood red. Qin Feng flew high in the sky, looking down at the forest below. It wasn't difficult to find the Ice and Fire Yin-Yang Well. It was right in the center of the forest, with its entrance atop a steep mountain peak, featuring a unique inverted cone-shaped mountain hollow terrain shrouded in mist. Although Dugu Bo had set up a jade phosphor snake poison array around its perimeter, it was useless against Qin Feng, who was flying in the air. As Qin Feng was flying, the mechanical voice of the system suddenly sounded in his mind. Warm reminder, a potential threat from a powerful enemy has been detected within 10 miles ahead. If you continue forward, please activate protection mode. You can exchange emotion points for temporary concealment. After concealing this potential threat, he will fall into an unconscious state, consuming 1,000 emotion points every 24 hours. Would you like to exchange? Qin Feng glanced at the system panel. A phantom of a person was displayed on the panel. This person had a cold face and dark green hair draped over his shoulders. He was currently sitting cross-legged in a cave, cultivating, surrounded by a pale green poisonous mist. Clearly, it was Dugu Bo. Conceal him for 7 days. Qin Feng did not hesitate and used all his remaining emotion points to conceal Dugu Bo. Consume 7,000 emotion points, temporary concealment, successfully exchanged. Target, Dugu Bo. Duration, 168 hours. The moment the system's voice faded, Dugu Bo in the image suddenly frowned slightly, as if he had sensed something. But in the next moment, his body relaxed, and he fell into an unconscious state. 7 days is enough. Qin Feng muttered to himself, casting his gaze toward the depths of the forest. Dugu Bo was the only one who knew of the existence of the Ice and Fire Yin-Yang Well. During the time he was concealed, Qin Feng could stay there in peace. Qin Feng lowered his flight altitude and soon saw an eerie area. A circular zone with a diameter of several thousand meters appeared in the forest. The ground was covered in dark green poisonous mist, the vegetation was withered, and all life was extinct. This was precisely the jade phosphor snake poison array set up by Dugu Bo. Qin Feng continued to fly forward. Before long, a steep mountain peak appeared in his field of vision. There was a clear depression in the center of the mountain peak, forming a unique inverted cone-shaped hollow. The edge of the hollow was a bottomless cliff. In the curling mist, there was a strong scent of sulfur. It's here. Qin Feng leapt and flew straight toward that bottomless hollow. The sound of wind whistled in his ears. After descending about 100 meters, the scene before his eyes suddenly opened up. A valley like a hidden paradise appeared before him. In the center of the valley, 2 springs, one red and one blue, were merging with a clear boundary, forming a marvelous sight. Around the springs, various rare flowers and herbs grew in competition, emitting a faint halo in the twilight. This was precisely the Ice and Fire Yin-Yang Well. The moment Qin Feng landed, a sudden change occurred. Upon the vault of heaven where night had just fallen, boundless golden light suddenly bloomed. A giant screen of light spanned the entire sky of the Duluo continent, clearly projecting Qin Feng's figure before the eyes of the world. At this moment, the entire Duluo continent was in an uproar once again. Outside the main hall of the 7 treasure glazed tile school, Ning Fengji looked up at the sky. It's him again, that transformed spirit beast. Chen Xin stared at the light screen, looking at that peculiar valley within it, and the 2 springs with clear boundaries in the center of the valley, unable to help but frown. What a strange place. Where is that? Is it the Stardo Great Forest? Clear Sky Sect. Tang Xiao, several elders, and the sect's disciples all looked up at the light screen in the sky. That transformed youth has appeared again, it seems he's still in the Stardo Great Forest. The 7th elder, Blazing Sun Duluo, had already set out and was on his way to the Stardo Great Forest. If he pushed his speed to the limit, he should have arrived at the Stardo Great Forest by now. However, the Stardo Great Forest was vast. Finding this miraculous youth in a short time was not easy. Tilde. In the team from the Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon clan, N.A.N and his group were advancing rapidly. The appearance of the sky screen made them stop in their tracks. Elder, are we still going to the Stardo Great Forest? N.A.N did not answer, his gaze was firmly attracted by the scene in the light screen. In the place where that mysterious youth was, rare flowers and herbs grew everywhere, each emitting an extraordinary aura. He should still be in the Stardo Great Forest. Let's wait and see for now. Tilde. The Spirit Hall team was also rushing toward the Stardo Great Forest. Yu Guan and Gui Mei were flying side by side. The moment the sky screen appeared, Yu Guan abruptly stopped his figure, his eyes widening. Those are. Looking at the situation in the sky screen, Yu Guan's voice was trembling. Obsessed with flowers and herbs, Yu Guan knew the world's rare treasures like the back of his hand. At this moment, through the light screen, he clearly saw. Beside the ice and fire yin-yang well, an octagonal ice-blue immortal herb swayed in the cold spring. Opposite it, a fiery red burning plant bloomed beside the hot spring. Not far from the pool, a flower as white as jade with a heart-like stamen emitted a faint halo. And that golden chrysanthemum-like plant, the pink tulip, the jade-muscled narcissus. Immortal grades. They are all immortal grade medicinal herbs. Yu Guan couldn't help but exclaim in amazement. Octagonal mysterious ice grass, fiery apricot jiao shu, yearning heartbroken red, strange velvet sky-reaching chrysanthemum. Heavens, such a treasure land actually exists in this world. Gui Mei said in a deep voice. Old Guan, calm down. Did you see clearly where that place is? Yu Guan forced down the excitement in his heart, carefully identified the terrain in the light screen, and then shook his head. I don't know where that is. But looking at the situation, it's definitely not in the frozen forest of the far north. Then it's also unlikely to be in the Sunset Forest. The Sunset Forest is only that big. It's very likely still in the Stardo Great Forest. Exactly. But the Stardo Great Forest is so vast, I'm afraid it will be hard to find him in a short time. Then let's just wait and see for now. The 2 elders landed back on the ground, looking up at the sky screen, wanting to see what that mysterious youth would do next. Chapter 8. Tang San's mindset exploded. He understands immortal herbs. Shrek Academy, Playground. The appearance of the golden canopy caused Dai Mubai and the others to stop their movements. It's that youth who is a spirit beast in human form again. Ma Hongjun exclaimed loudly. Ning Rongrong marveled. What place is that? It's surrounded by exotic flowers and rare herbs, so beautiful. Oscar frowned slightly. That place is beautiful, but it feels a bit eerie. Just then, a crisp clatter sounded from behind the crowd. Looking back, they saw the hidden weapon in Tang San's hand had fallen to the ground. At this moment, he was looking up at the canopy, his face pale as paper, his lips trembling slightly. Ice and fire yin-yang well, it's actually the ice and fire yin-yang well. How could there be an ice and fire yin-yang well in this world? Tang San muttered to himself, his voice filled with disbelief. Little San, what's wrong? Dai Mubai stepped forward quickly. Xiao Wu also asked with concern. Brother, you know that place. Tang San didn't answer. His gaze was deadlocked on the 2 immortal herbs in the center of the bipolar spring in the light screen, the octagonal mysterious ice grass and the fiery apricot jiao shu. He had once seen records of these 2 top-tier poisonous immortal herbs in the Tang Sect World's Mysterious Heaven Treasure Record. The Mysterious Heaven Treasure Record, Medicinal Chapter, stated. At the intersection of extreme cold and extreme heat, the ice and fire yin-yang well can be born. This is a place where the spiritual energy of heaven and earth gathers, a place of spiritual beauty that can foster immortal grade herbs. The octagonal mysterious ice grass grows in the extreme cold spring eye, octagonal like ice crystals, its body ice blue. The fiery apricot jiao shu grows in the extreme heat spring eye, crimson as fire, its flowers like blazing flames. Word for word, it perfectly matched the scene before his eyes. Impossible, this is impossible. Tang San took 2 steps back, his mind in a state of chaos. The Mysterious Heaven Treasure Record was a secret transmission of the Tang Sect, recording knowledge from another world. But why would a scene identical to the records appear in this world? Little San, what exactly is going on? Dai Mubai supported Tang San's shoulder. Tang San took a deep breath, forcing himself to calm down. He pointed at the light screen, his voice still trembling. That place is called the Ice and Fire Yin-Yang Well. It is a uniquely blessed natural treasure land, formed by the convergence of two extreme attributes of spring water, ultimate cold and ultimate heat. One eye, two polarities, mutually restraining. Look at those two pools of spring water, distinct yet blending with each other. The red spring water is scorching hot, while the milky white spring water is bone-chillingly cold. This extreme environment can foster various immortal-grade medicinal herbs. Tang San identified them one by one. The octagonal blue plant in the center of the cold spring is the octagonal mysterious ice grass, possessing extreme cold power, it freezes upon touch. The red one by the hot spring is the fiery apricot jiao shu, containing extreme heat power, it incinerates upon contact. Both of those medicinal herbs are highly poisonous. As Tang San explained, the crowd grew more alarmed as they listened. Ma Hongjun asked curiously. Third brother, how do you know all this so clearly? Oscar swallowed hard. These immortal herbs, they all sound so powerful. I've seen records of some natural treasures in our sect's archives, but I've never heard of these immortal grades. Third brother, where did you learn this? As the young lady of the 7 treasure glazed tile school, Ning Rongrong had extraordinary knowledge, yet she had never heard of these either. I saw all this in ancient texts. Tang San's answer was nonchalant. He knew a lot of strange knowledge, and everyone was already used to it. Dai Mubai asked. Little San, if these immortal herbs are really as miraculous as you say, then if he found that place. If he knows how to consume those immortal herbs, once he does, his strength will advance by leaps and bounds. As soon as these words were spoken, everyone's heart tightened. 100,000-year transformed beast who could already condense a 10,000-year first spirit ring on his own, if he gained the help of these immortal-grade medicinal herbs, it was hard to imagine how powerful he could eventually become. He's a spirit beast who just transformed into a human, does he really know how to consume immortal herbs? Or did he just happen to discover the treasure land by chance? Tang San stared tensely at the canopy, thinking to himself, wanting to know what would happen next. The entire world, all living beings who saw the golden light screen, looked forward to Qin Feng's next move. In the light screen, Qin Feng's figure moved through the magnificent yet dangerous medicinal garden. His gaze was sharp, but his movements were exceptionally cautious. Finally, he stopped in front of a peculiar plant. The plant was emerald green throughout, its form elegant. In the center of the plant, 3 snow-white leaves were held up in a triangular formation. At the center of the leaves, 3 crystal-clear water droplets, like dew, had condensed, shimmering with a strange luster under the reflection of the light screen. That's. On the Shrek Academy playground, Tang San's pupils suddenly constricted. They saw Qin Feng in the light screen, without the slightest hesitation, reach out and gently pluck that immortal herb. He walked to a relatively open flat area, carefully tilted the leaves, letting those few drops of dew slide off and accurately drip into his mouth. Then, he immediately sat cross-legged and closed his eyes. The spirit power around him began to fluctuate as he entered a state of meditative cultivation. He really does know how to consume immortal herbs. Tang San cried out in surprise, his face looking even worse than before. Brother, what is that? Xiao Wu asked urgently. Everyone else also reacted, looking at Tang San and waiting for his answer. That is the autumn water dew. Those few drops on the leaves that look like dew are not actual water, but an essence liquid condensed from absorbing the essence of heaven and earth and the spiritual energy of the sun and moon. Consuming it directly can significantly increase the consumer's mental force and also temper their eyesight, allowing them to see through falsehoods. Legend has it that if one can fully absorb its effects, they can cultivate the fiery eyes with golden pupils, observing the smallest details and seeing through the essence of all things. Tang San took a deep breath, forcing himself to explain in as steady a tone as possible, but the jealousy within was still hard to hide. Increasing mental force. Fiery eyes with golden pupils. Ning Rongrong couldn't help but marvel. As a support system spirit master, she knew deeply how important mental force was to a spirit master. And the ability to see through all kinds of strange objects was even more unheard of. Oscar clicked his tongue. Good heavens, just hearing the description makes it sound incredible. That guy's luck is too good, right? No, this isn't luck, he seems to recognize those medicinal herbs, like he's strolling through his own garden. Ma Hongjun scratched his head. Third brother, how do you know everything? This dew sounds even rarer than a spirit bone. Tang San did not answer Ma Hongjun's question. All of his attention was focused on the light screen. The fact that the mysterious youth, a spirit beast in human form, knew how to consume the autumn water dew, did not seem to be a coincidence. This meant that he likely also recognized other immortal herbs and knew how to consume them. Could it be that the thunderclap hell vine had already devoured some kind of immortal-grade medicinal herb before, which is why it could cultivate to 100,000 years and thus possess the conditions to transform into a human? Or perhaps, it originally grew around the ice and fire yin-yang well, relying on the nourishment of the bipolar spring to grow rapidly and continuously strengthen. Chapter 9. Yu Guan's Heartbreaks, My Strange Velvet Sky-Reaching Chrysanthemum. Various speculations caused Tang San's heart to sink. A transformed 100,000-year spirit beast, possessing an inconceivable 10,000-year first spirit ring, and then receiving the aid of the immortal herbs from the ice and fire yin-yang well. His growth speed and future achievements will be unpredictable, and he might even shatter the existing landscape of the Spirit Master's world. Across the entire Duluo continent, countless eyes were focused on the light screen, watching the youth sitting cross-legged. Time passed in silence. 1 hour later. The invisible mental fluctuations around Qin Feng gradually subsided. He slowly opened his eyes. The moment he opened his eyes, a clear and transparent gaze that seemed capable of piercing the soul flashed and vanished. Even through the light screen, it still made people's hearts tremble. His eyes seemed different. Xiao Wu said softly. As a spirit beast, she was more sensitive to changes in aura and mental force. Indeed, just as third brother said, that autumn water dew actually has such a miraculous effect. His original form is a plant-type spirit beast. After consuming the immortal herb and refining its medicinal power, it took less time than I imagined, and the effect might be even better. As Tang San spoke, his brow furrowed deeply, and his heart felt as if it were being sliced by an invisible blade. How he wished he could be like that silver-haired youth and consume a stock of autumn water dew. If that were the case, his purple demon eye would most likely elevate to a completely new realm. However, he could only think about it. This was ultimately an unattainable dream. Tang San's gaze was fixed on the sky screen, wondering what the silver-haired youth would do next. He hoped the youth would leave now and not touch any more of the immortal herbs there. Within the light screen, Qin Feng stood up, stretched his limbs, and a satisfied expression appeared on his face. He didn't linger, his gaze returned to the herb garden as he continued his search. He bypassed several clumps of strangely shaped plants and avoided several areas where the soil was clearly off-colored. Suddenly, Qin Feng stopped in his tracks. What appeared before him was a massive chrysanthemum. The chrysanthemum was a magnificent purple. Strangely, every petal of the chrysanthemum looked fuzzy and quite cute. The entire chrysanthemum was a seamless whole, with the central stamen rising more than half a foot above the petals, its tip shimmering with a faint golden glow. It gave off a sense of aloofness, resilience, and elegant nobility. Strange velvet sky-reaching chrysanthemum. Watching the scene on the sky screen, Tang San gritted his teeth as he uttered the name of this immortal herb. Everyone was startled. Dai Mubai asked. Little San, what are the medicinal effects of this strange velvet sky-reaching chrysanthemum? Is it an even more precious supreme immortal grade treasure than that autumn water dew just now? Of course. Tang San didn't look at Dai Mubai, his eyes still fixed on the light screen as he continued. Strictly speaking, that autumn water dew isn't considered an immortal grade medicinal herb, though it does have unique effects comparable to an immortal herb. This strange velvet sky-reaching chrysanthemum is a true immortal grade medicinal herb, and it's neutral with mild effects. Consuming it directs energy to the limbs and clears the 8 meridians, allowing one to cultivate an invulnerable Vajra body. It's particularly suitable for your evil eye's white tiger spirit, making your attacks even more fierce and powerful. Suitable for me. Exactly. If you could consume such an immortal herb, at a conservative estimate, your spirit power would increase by at least 4 ranks, directly helping you break through the rank 40 bottleneck. Question mark, exclamation mark, exclamation mark, exclamation mark. Hearing Tang San's description, Ma Hongjun, Oscar, and the others all widened their eyes. Oscar exclaimed in amazement. Third brother, isn't that too exaggerated? With Boss Day's current strength, it would take at least over a year to increase his spirit power by 4 ranks. Just one chrysanthemum has such miraculous effects. This is no ordinary chrysanthemum, it's an immortal grade that has absorbed the spiritual energy of heaven and earth and the essence of the sun and moon. What I said isn't exaggerated at all. Ma Hongjun asked. Third brother, according to what you're saying, that herb garden seems to have quite a few immortal herbs. If he consumes a few more, wouldn't he be able to achieve rapid progress in spirit power just by relying on immortal herbs? Tang San shook his head and explained. Consuming immortal herbs isn't a case of, the more the better. Some immortal herbs have mild effects, while others are domineering. If they aren't suitable, it will be counterproductive. Furthermore, the medicinal power of each immortal herb cannot be fully absorbed in a short time. Even if one consumes immortal herbs consecutively, there needs to be an interval of time. The others nodded, seemingly understanding yet not quite. At this moment, in the light screen, Qin Feng stared at the strange velvet sky-reaching chrysanthemum with burning eyes. He reached out his hand, slowly moving toward it. On the Shrek Academy playground, everyone held their breath. This silver-haired youth just consumed the autumn water dew, is he going to pluck this strange velvet sky-reaching chrysanthemum now? After plucking it, is he going to consume it immediately? Tang San's heart was thumping wildly, he wished he were the one in the light screen instead of that silver-haired youth who was a spirit beast transformed into a human. Meanwhile, on the other side, Yu Guan and Gui Mei stood side by side, their charming eyes fixed intently on the scene in the light screen. Strange velvet sky-reaching chrysanthemum. The moment that aloof and proud immortal herb with purple petals and golden stamens appeared in the light screen, Yu Guan's body shook violently, and an indescribable heat and longing surged through his mind. His pupils suddenly contracted, and his breathing uncontrollably became rapid. Even his spirit involuntarily manifested slightly, with a faint gold and purple halo, originating from the same source as the chrysanthemum in the light screen, lingering around his fingertips. Strange velvet sky-reaching chrysanthemum, it's really it. Yu Guan's voice carried an uncontrollable tremble, as if a pilgrim had witnessed a miracle. His gaze was obsessively glued to that chrysanthemum, every thread of its fuzzy petals and every strand of its shimmering golden stamen was deeply etched into the depths of his soul. As a spirit master whose spirit was the strange velvet sky-reaching chrysanthemum, no one knew better than he what this natal immortal herb meant to him. It was a supreme opportunity sufficient to break through the bottleneck that had stalled him for many years, allowing his spirit power to leap from rank 95 to rank 96 or even higher, achieving a qualitative leap. His spirit was resonating, longing. However, the scene in the light screen was so far out of reach. His natal immortal herb was right before his eyes, yet separated by an insurmountable barrier of time and space. This feeling almost made Yu Guan's heart ache to the point of suffocation. Gui Mei felt his old partner's pain. He knew that this strange velvet sky-reaching chrysanthemum, identical to Yu Guan's spirit, was an enormous opportunity for him. Old Guan, pull yourself together. I'll go find him right now. With my speed, maybe I can. Old ghost, it's too late. Under the focus of countless shocked, envious, and puzzled gazes, the silver-haired youth in the light screen bent down. He carefully plucked the strange velvet sky-reaching chrysanthemum. Immediately after, he walked to a flat area, sat cross-legged, and sent it directly into his mouth, swallowing it down. Then, he closed his eyes again, spirit power surging around him as he entered a state of absorption and refinement. Chapter 10 Spirit Power Skyrockets, condensing the second spirit ring. He actually ate it. At Shrek Academy, Dai Mubai couldn't help but exclaim in a low voice, the shock on his face beyond measure. Little San, didn't you say that taking immortal herbs requires intervals and that their attributes must match? He just absorbed that autumn water dew, and it hasn't even been an hour, yet he's eating a second one. And an immortal grade with even stronger medicinal effects. Can his body handle it? Everyone's eyes turned toward Tang San in unison. Tang San's expression was exceptionally solemn, his brows tightly furrowed. In the depths of his eyes, there was both certainty in his knowledge of immortal herbs and a deep wariness regarding the implications behind the silver-haired youth's actions. He understands immortal herbs too well. Tang San continued to explain. Autumn water dew primarily targets mental force and eyesight. Although its medicinal effect is unique, its nature is relatively gentle and pure, and it doesn't conflict with other energies. And this strange velvet sky-reaching chrysanthemum, as I said, is a neutral immortal grade. Its medicinal power is mellow and primarily acts on the muscles, bones, and bloodlines, strengthening the foundation and cultivating the basis of an indestructible Vajra body. The focus of these two is different, one for the spirit and one for the body, and neither of their medicinal properties is considered overbearing. As long as the absorber's physical strength is sufficient and their mental force control is precise, taking them one after another in a short time won't just avoid conflict, they might even complement each other. However, the requirements for the consumer are extremely high. He dares to do this either because he relies on his nature as a plant-type spirit beast, which gives him a natural affinity and tolerance for the essence of flora, or because he truly knows the medicinal properties of immortal herbs like the back of his hand and is confident he can master them perfectly. Hearing Tang San's explanation, everyone finally understood, but the shock in their hearts grew even deeper. This silver-haired youth was not only exceptionally gifted with heaven-defying luck, but even his understanding and application of immortal herbs were so precise. It's simply incredible. Xiao Wu suddenly asked. Brother, he condensed his first spirit ring yesterday, and it was at the 10,000-year level. The spirit power boost from that ring should be at least 3 ranks. Now that he's taken these 2 immortal herbs in succession, will his spirit power directly break through the rank 20 bottleneck? This question left several people stunned. Tang San was dazed for a moment and sighed softly. I'm not entirely sure either. However, the greatest effect of the autumn water dew is to enhance mental force and eyesight, its boost to spirit power is negligible. On the other hand, it's truly possible for the strange velvet sky-reaching chrysanthemum to help him raise his spirit power by 6 or 7 ranks. After all, he is a plant-type spirit beast transformed into a human, his affinity for the essence of flora far exceeds us human spirit masters. Hearing Tang San's explanation, everyone gasped. If that silver-haired youth really could break through the rank 20 bottleneck, he could directly condense a second spirit ring. You have to realize, he only just transformed into a human yesterday. This is simply too heaven-defying. Night gradually deepened, but no one watching the sky screen felt sleepy. Everyone was looking forward to what would happen when the silver-haired youth woke up again. Meanwhile, far away at the Breaking Clan's manor, clan head Yang Wudi stood on the training grounds, staring intently at the light screen. Those hands, usually steady and skilled at identifying medicinal properties, were actually trembling slightly now. As a descendant of the Breaking Clan, who survived by refining medicine and pills, he possessed precious secret manuals and diagrams of immortal herbs, and he himself was obsessed with this path. When the light screen first showed that valley shrouded in spiritual energy and filled with hundreds of exotic flowers and rare plants, he had already recognized it as the legendary treasure land that one could only hope to encounter but never seek, the ice and fire yin-yang well. And the morphological characteristics of many plants there were almost identical to the immortal and top-grade herbs recorded in his clan's secret texts. First the autumn water dew, then the strange velvet sky-reaching chrysanthemum. Watching that youth casually consume these two treasures as if he were picking ordinary flowers, the shock in Yang Wudi's heart turned into a stormy sea. Amidst the shock, a wave of intense envy and uncontrollable jealousy also welled up in his heart. That is the treasure every medicine refiner dreams of. If he could get the chance to enter that valley and take a suitable immortal herb, it was highly likely he could break through to the titled Duluo realm. The fate of the entire clan might be completely rewritten because of it. Unfortunately, all of this only existed in the projection of the light screen, visible but unreachable. 2 more hours passed in silent and oppressive observation. Within the light screen, the fluctuating spirit power around Qin Feng's body gradually calmed down. The pale golden halo that had appeared from absorbing the strange velvet sky-reaching chrysanthemum also retracted and vanished. He slowly opened his eyes. His eyes were bright and full of spirit, with a hidden sharpness. His entire temperament seemed more settled, and his body faintly exuded a sense of solidity like a wall of bronze and iron. Qin Feng stood up and slightly clenched his fists. Feeling the surging spirit power within him, a satisfied smile appeared on his face. The majestic medicinal power of the strange velvet sky-reaching chrysanthemum caused his spirit power to skyrocket once again, directly breaking through the rank 20 bottleneck. Since he hadn't obtained a second spirit ring yet, he couldn't accurately sense his specific rank, but that feeling of abundant power was very real. Spirit City, outside the Supreme Pontiff Palace. Bibi Dong stood alone, quietly watching the situation on the sky screen, murmuring to herself. He seems to have become quite a bit stronger. Is it just because he ate those 2 herbs? Those herbs don't look ordinary, they actually have such miraculous effects. He's becoming stronger. If I devour his energy and absorb his spirit ring. I wonder where Yu Guan and the others are now. Thinking of this, a strange smile appeared on Bibi Dong's face, as if she could already see the scene of Gui Mei and Yu Guan bringing this 100,000-year spirit beast transformed into a human before her. Within the light screen, under the watchful eyes of countless people across the Duluo continent, Qin Feng made a move that almost stopped everyone's hearts. He released his spirit once again. The phantom of the thunderclap Hellvine emerged, more solid than before. Purple gold lightning moved and jumped around his body like a living thing, emitting a low hum. The violent aura of lightning made people feel palpably uneasy, even through the light screen. Immediately after, an astonishing amount of spirit power began to gather and compress with Qin Feng as the center. The lightning attribute energy of heaven and earth seemed to be summoned, merging into his body and spirit in wisps. The profound energy fluctuations around him rippled outward like waves. Is he condensing a second spirit ring? How is that possible? He only just condensed his first 10,000-year spirit ring last night, and only a day has passed. In a single day, he broke through rank bottlenecks consecutively and is condensing a second spirit ring. And it's over the 10,000-year level. Across the entire continent, whether it was the Heaven Do Empire, the Star Luo Empire, Spirit Hall, or the various sects and academies, everyone who saw this scene was stunned by this inconceivable sight. This had already completely exceeded the scope of their understanding of spirit master cultivation and even spirit beast transformation. This growth rate is simply too heaven-defying. Chapter 11. Tang San is driven mad with envy, don't touch them. Under the focus of countless horrified gazes, the color of the new spirit ring surrounding Qin Feng grew deeper and deeper, eventually settling into a pure black that was more profound, more restrained, and more heart-stopping than his first spirit ring. Within the black radiance, purple gold lightning snakes flickered faintly, emitting a pressure that made one's soul tremble. 30,000 years. This newly condensed second spirit ring had actually reached a staggering age of 30,000 years. The spirit ring finished condensing and began to rhythmically pulse. Qin Feng closed his eyes to feel the changes within himself, and his spirit power level clearly fed back to him. Level 25. 2 immortal herbs, combined with the feedback from the massive leap in spirit ring level, allowed his spirit power to achieve explosive growth. He jumped directly from level 16 to level 25. At the same time, information about the spirit ability bestowed by the second spirit ring surfaced in his mind. Second spirit ability, Thunder Purgatory. This was a powerful control and damage type spirit ability. When activated, it could instantly summon a cage of violent purple gold lightning in a specified area, trapping enemies while continuously bombarding and paralyzing them with high-intensity electricity. Its range and power varied according to the amount of spirit power injected. A flash of purple gold lightning flickered in Qin Feng's eyes and vanished. In a single day, his mental force had greatly increased, his physical constitution had jumped to the prototype of the indestructible Vajra body, his spirit power had broken through to level 25, and he had even obtained a 30,000-year second spirit ring along with a powerful new spirit ability. The journey to the ice and fire yin-yang well had started with a massive harvest. He raised his head, casting his gaze once more toward the herb garden that still shimmered with 7-colored precious light, a faint curve appearing at the corner of his mouth. Immortal herbs, there were far more than just these two. The entire Duluo continent fell into a deathly silence. Everyone watching the sky screen widened their eyes and held their breath. Shrek Academy. Xiao Wu was actually right. He really condensed a second 10,000-year spirit ring. Ma Hongjin's fat face contorted as he cried out in alarm. Looking at the appearance of this spirit ring, it must be an existence even more powerful than the first. Oscar was also shocked. Dai Mubai's fists clenched until they cracked, his tiger-like eyes full of horror. It's only been 2 days since he took human form. He's actually condensed 2 10,000-year spirit rings. If I hadn't seen it with my own eyes, who would believe it? Xiao Wu also found it inconceivable. This 100,000-year thunderclap hellvine turned human was simply too heaven-defying. Tang San's expression had now become solemn to the extreme. He stared fixedly at the silver-haired youth's calm figure in the light screen. The 2 black 10,000-year spirit rings that had appeared on that youth in succession seemed to be mocking all the laws of cultivation in the world. It's the changes brought by those immortal herbs, but it's not just the herbs. His understanding of the medicinal properties of the immortal herbs, his control over his own power, and his spirit itself, the thunderclap hellvine, perhaps inherently contain mysteries we cannot understand. His method of cultivation might have been completely different from ours from the very beginning. Tang San took a deep breath, trying to calm the stormy waves in his heart. Witnessing everything happening in the light screen with his own eyes, the conjecture in his heart seemed to be getting verified step by step. That silver-haired youth, a transformed spirit beast, not only knew about immortal herbs but also mastered a set of profound cultivation methods. That cultivation method didn't seem to belong to the Duluo world, but rather to the Taoism of an otherworldly realm. That youth, like him, very likely came from another world. With this question in mind, Tang San continued to stare at the light screen, trying to find an answer within it. Breaking clan. Yang Wudi's eyes were blood red as he stared fixedly at the light screen, his chest heaving violently. Autumn water dew strengthens the mind, the strange velvet sky-reaching chrysanthemum lays the foundation for the indestructible Vajra body, and then with the plant-type spirit beast origin's affinity for plant essence, the medicinal power is pushed to the extreme, breaking through the bottleneck in one go, even supporting the condensation of a spirit ring far beyond the limit. Perfect. It's a simply perfect utilization of medicinal properties. The world was just watching for the spectacle. But as a Grand Master of Alchemy, Yang Wudi knew better than anyone what this meant. Those weren't just immortal herbs, they were a heavenly opportunity that could break the iron laws of cultivation and create a peerless genius. A treasure, that is a treasure sufficient to change the landscape of the continent. Yang Wudi's heart was bleeding. That surge of jealousy and desire almost burst from his chest. Spirit City, before the Supreme Pontiff Palace. Bibi Dong's elegant and noble face had turned as cold as frost. In just 2 short days, that 100,000-year spirit beast turned human had already condensed 2 black 10,000-year spirit rings. This growth speed was too alarming. The difficulty of capturing him had undoubtedly increased significantly. Furthermore, he was still currently within that strange treasure land. What would happen next? Would his spirit power continue to skyrocket at this speed? Would he continue to condense spirit rings? These questions lingered in Bibi Dong's heart like a dark haze. At this moment, she only hoped that the 2 elders, Gui Mei and Yu Guan, could find the silver-haired youth as soon as possible and capture him alive to avoid any further complications. Clear Sky Sect, 7 Treasure Glazed Tile School, Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon Clan, Star Luo Empire, Heaven Do Empire. The powerhouses and rulers of every major faction who saw this scene were all plunged into massive shock and a violent surge of thoughts. Panic, greed, wariness, curiosity, killing intent. All sorts of emotions surged and billowed in the undercurrents. A monster had appeared who broke all common sense and rose at an inconceivable speed. His very existence was a challenge to the existing order and perception. Just then, in the light screen, the silver-haired youth who had created all this horror moved again. He slowly walked toward the ice and fire yin-yang well. The eyes of the entire continent were glued to him, waiting for his next move. Tang San's heart was thumping wildly. He prayed silently in his heart, hoping that the silver-haired youth would not touch the octagonal mysterious ice grass and the fiery apricot jiao shu in the center of the spring. But in the next moment, the thing he feared most happened. In the light screen, Qin Feng stopped his footsteps at the edge of the ice and fire yin-yang well, where the red and blue waters intertwined yet remained distinct. He gazed at the spring water that churned with extreme heat and extreme cold, his eyes devoid of any fear. What does he want to do? Everyone's heart jumped into their throats. The next moment, Qin Feng slowly raised both hands. Hum. A low rumble of thunder sounded once more, and purple-gold electric light suddenly erupted from his body. The phantom of the thunderclap hell vine emerged from behind him. Two long vines, their entire lengths wrapped in purple-gold lightning, shot out rapidly from his palms like living tentacles. One stabbed straight toward the fiery apricot Jiao Shu in the center of the yang spring. The other accurately probed into the octagonal mysterious ice grass in the center of the yin spring. Tang San's breathing almost came to a halt. He knew all too well how overbearing these two toxic immortal grades were. Forget touching both at once, even a titled Duluo would risk their life by rashly approaching just one of them. Chapter 12. He won't die, he'll only become stronger. The conflict between ice and fire and the energy explosion did not happen. Purple-gold electrical arcs flowed across the surface of the vines, forming a strange energy barrier that temporarily resisted the terrifying corrosive force of the polar springs. The tips of the long vines acted like nimble fingers, gently rapping and flicking. Under everyone's unblinking gaze, the fiery apricot Jiao Shu was stripped from the blazing yang spring. The octagonal mysterious ice grass was also taken from the bone-chilling yin spring. The two highly poisonous immortal herbs, with diametrically opposite attributes and incredibly violent energy, were guided by the two lightning vines, rapidly leaving the spring eyes where they had grown for 10,000 years. The moment they left the spring water, the fiery light of the fiery apricot Jiao Shu seemed to dim for an instant, and the cold air of the octagonal mysterious ice grass also withdrew slightly. But the extreme energy they contained still caused the viewers outside the light screen to feel a heart-palpitating heat and bone-chilling cold. The two long vines guided the two immortal herbs, tracing two arcs. One crimson, one icy blue. Finally, they landed simultaneously on the moist soil at Qin Feng's feet, placed side by side. A strange scene appeared. The extreme cold and blazing heat that were originally encroaching on the surroundings underwent a subtle change the moment they approached each other. A layer of hazy white frost, as delicate as grease, quietly condensed on the surface of the fiery apricot Jiao Shu's leaping crimson flames. On the crystal-clear leaves of the octagonal mysterious ice grass, a faint, sunset-like blush spread out. After losing the support of the spring water, the two immortal herbs with extreme attributes achieved a mysterious balance on their own. Qin Feng looked at the two immortal herbs on the ground, his eyes calm and without ripples. He retracted the lightning vines, reached out with both hands, and picked them up directly from the ground. Then, without hesitation, he put both immortal herbs into his mouth at the same time and began to chew them in large mouthfuls. A peculiar medicinal liquid, a mixture of spring-like crispness and warm jade-like gentleness, flowed down his throat without much disturbance. However, Qin Feng knew that this was but the brief silence before the storm. After only a few breaths, the dormant medicinal power, like lava and glaciers sealed for eternity, awakened and erupted simultaneously. Qin Feng's body shook violently. Immediately after, his body began to undergo changes. A blazing red light, like magma gushing from the earth's core, rose from the soles of his feet and swallowed his entire body in an instant. The outline of his entire person became blurred in the red light. It was as if magma was flowing beneath his skin, emitting a terrifying high temperature that scorched and distorted the air. But this situation also only lasted for a moment. The next moment, a bone-chilling, deep blue icy light, like a cold wave from the polar abyss, surged back from the same origin. Red and blue, the two lights appeared alternately on Qin Feng's body. The two extreme forces seemed to use his body as a battlefield, engaging in a fierce struggle. In a very short period, his skin changed into terrifying sights. At times, it was as red as a branding iron. At other times, it was covered in a layer of deep blue ice crystals. The two extreme energies rampaged through his meridians, bones, and flesh. Everywhere they passed, they brought a cycle of agonizing pain from tearing, freezing, and burning. Qin Feng's teeth were tightly clenched, and the veins on his forehead and the side of his neck bulged. Deep within those purple gold eyes, a forcibly suppressed pain showed, yet he always maintained a sliver of clarity and a determined will. Fortunately, his body, which had been tempered through 1,000 trials by the power of thunder, was tough enough. Before consuming these two poisonous immortal herbs, he had also taken the strange velvet sky-reaching chrysanthemum, further strengthening his body. Only then was he able to endure the impact of those two powerful energies. Suddenly, Qin Feng suddenly leapt up and jumped into the core intersection where the red and white waters of the ice and fire yin-yang well were violently churning yet strangely coexisting. Splash. The water splashed, spreading a ring of half-red, half-blue ripples. Qin Feng's figure was instantly swallowed by the spring water, which contained the source powers of the world's ultimate yang and ultimate yin, and disappeared. Outside the light screen, all was silent. Only the intertwined red and white spring water remained, still rolling incessantly. And outside the light screen, the entire Duluo continent was already silent. Shrek Academy. Tang San's face was as pale as paper, his eyes staring fixedly at the spring water as if he wanted to pierce through the surface and see clearly the upheaval happening beneath. San Ji. Oscar's voice carried an unbelievable tremble, breaking the dead silence among the Shrek group. Didn't you say before that those two immortal herbs, called something like fiery apricot jiao shu and octagonal mysterious ice grass, were both incredibly poisonous? You can't even touch them. How does he dare to just eat them raw? And both of them together? Everyone's gaze immediately focused on Tang San, and even their breathing became light. Tang San took a deep breath, forcibly suppressing the stormy waves in his heart. Those two immortal herbs indeed contain fatal poisons, representing two extreme powers, extreme heat and extreme cold. Taking either one alone, even a powerhouse at the titled Duluo level would be corroded by that overbearing energy and die a sudden death. However, those polar springs also follow the principle of mutual generation and restraint. Although the energy attributes of the fiery apricot jiao shu and the octagonal mysterious ice grass are diametrically opposed, they can precisely form a strange mutual restraint. By taking them simultaneously, those two incredibly violent forces will achieve a subtle balance within the body. Just like the ice and fire yin-yang well itself, where the extremely cold and extremely hot spring waters have not encroached upon each other for thousands or tens of thousands of years, instead nourishing countless rare treasures. Hearing Tang San's explanation, everyone finally understood everything. Tang San continued. I am now very certain that he knows those immortal herbs like the back of his hand, understands their characteristics, and knows how to harvest and consume them. Moreover, he has an unimaginable confidence in his own body and spirit to dare to make such a near-suicidal attempt. Xiao Wu asked. Jay, that spring water looks very scary. If he just jumps in like that, will he? No, he won't be in trouble. Tang San shook his head decisively, his gaze becoming sharp. Quite the opposite, those polar springs are the best catalyst and neutralizer for the medicinal power of the ice and fire immortal herbs that are currently in fierce conflict within his body. Seeing everyone's puzzled looks, Tang San continued to explain. The water of the ice and fire yin-yang well contains the source energies of ultimate yang and ultimate yin, which are purer, more massive, and more primitive than the immortal herbs themselves. For an ordinary spirit master, even a titled Duluo, if their physical body touches such extreme energy, it would be corroded, melted, and turned into pus in an instant. But he is different. He currently has the same source ice and fire energy within him. By jumping into the intersection of the spring eyes, the external ice and fire spring water will form a powerful energy field. It can not only accelerate the fusion and refinement process of the medicinal power within his body but also guide and stabilize those two forces to form a balance within his body in the most direct way. This is equivalent to temporarily turning his own body into a miniature, ice and fire yin-yang well. Chapter 13. Yu Shaogang can no longer remain calm. Immortal herbs to help me. Shedding the name of a loser. Listening to Tang San's explanation, everyone gasped in shock once again. They hadn't expected those dual-colored spring waters to contain such terrifying energy. Daimubai asked. Little San, you mean, he's using the terrifying spring water to temper his body? Exactly. Tang San nodded and continued. If he can endure it, successfully absorb the medicinal power, and withstand the tempering of the spring water, then his body will undergo a complete transformation, a rebirth. From then on, the effects of ice and fire attribute attacks in this world will be greatly reduced against him, and he might even become completely immune. This is the legendary, ice-fire double immunity, body. Listening to Tang San's description, everyone was dumbfounded. Ice-fire double immunity. This is too strong, isn't it? More than that. Tang San's voice became heavy, and his expression turned solemn. His spirit, the thunderclap hellvine, is already a top-tier lightning attribute plant spirit. If it undergoes tempering and fusion with that ice and fire energy, it will become even more powerful. Not only will it contain violent thunder power, but it will also carry formidable ice and fire forces. Offense and defense in one, domineering and peerless. The scene suddenly fell into a deathly silence. That spirit beast transformed into a human had, within 2 days, condensed 2 10,000-year spirit rings on its own. Now, he was about to achieve an ice-fire double immunity body and even cause his top-tier spirit to undergo a fundamental evolution. This could no longer be described as merely defying the heavens. A monster. This was a true monster. Just as the Shrek group was rendered speechless by Tang San's description, 2 steady sets of footsteps sounded from behind. Everyone turned around. At some point, Yu Shaogang and Flender had quietly arrived behind them. Their faces also bore expressions of solemnity and a shock that hadn't fully dissipated. Clearly, they had also witnessed everything happening in the light screen. On Yu Shaogang's habitually serious and rigid face, an almost dazed sigh of admiration now emerged. 2 consecutive nights, what we have seen and heard is truly too incredible. The actions of that 100,000-year spirit beast transformed into a human have completely exceeded the common sense and imagination of the spirit master's world. This continent is likely to face unprecedented waves because of him. Flender nodded and said, more than just waves, it's a storm. He's a walking 100,000-year spirit bone, and he also possesses a precious land and cultivation secrets that would make anyone's eyes turn red with envy. Spirit Hall, the upper three sects, the two great empires, who knows how many eyes and how many greedy hearts are now locked onto the direction of the Stardow Great Forest. Yu Xiaogong's words and Flender's analysis made the atmosphere even heavier. Tang San felt a sense of unwillingness in his heart. How he wished that the person currently soaking in the waters of the ice and fire yin-yang well was him, and not that silver-haired youth. After thinking for a moment, Tang San looked up, his gaze sweeping over his companions before finally landing on the faces of Yu Xiaogong and Flender. Grandmaster, Dean, you've seen it too, that precious land of the ice and fire yin-yang well and those immortal great herbs possess such heaven-defying power that they are not at all inferior to a 100,000-year spirit bone. There are many immortal herbs there, he has consumed 4, but many still remain, and it's impossible for him to consume them all. If we also have the chance to consume suitable immortal herbs, our strength will definitely achieve an unimaginable leap in a short period of time. It's not just a surge in spirit power levels, more importantly, it's the change in constitution and the elevation of potential. It might even break through inherent cultivation bottlenecks or cause spirit evolution. These words were like a spark, instantly igniting the fire of desire in everyone's hearts that had been suppressed by shock. A sharp light flickered in Dai Mubai's eyes. A ripple also passed through Zhu Zuqing's cold eyes. Ning Rongrong thought of the limitations of the 7 treasure glazed tile pagoda. Oscar thought of his dream of being a support system battle spirit master. Ma Hongjun rubbed his hands, as if he could already see the scene where his evil fire was completely purified in his phoenix sword. When Yu Xiaogong heard the words, break through cultivation bottlenecks, his body trembled slightly, and his inner calm vanished. That level 29 bottleneck that had plagued him for half his life and caused him to be looked down upon by his clan was like a stubborn chain, firmly binding him. He also yearned to break through the bottleneck, continue to increase his spirit power, and prove that he wasn't a loser. Flender keenly captured the change in Yu Xiaogong's emotions and saw the hope burning in the eyes of the disciples. As the dean, he knew well that opportunity and risk coexisted, but the temptation before them was simply too great. After a moment of deliberation, Flender adjusted his glasses and said in a deep voice. Xiaogong, what little San said makes sense. The light screen has appeared twice, that place should be within the Stardow Great Forest. Although it's dangerous, it's not necessarily without opportunity. Perhaps, we should go and try our luck. Even if we don't find that precious land, venturing deep into the Stardow Great Forest to train is also excellent for the children's growth. Flender's suggestion was like adding dry firewood to the fire of desire in everyone's hearts. The dean is right. Instead of staying here and watching others advance by leaps and bounds, why don't we also go and take a gamble? Right. Third brother knows so much about immortal herbs, if we can find them, we can definitely make good use of them. Everyone expressed their support for Tang San. Tang San looked at Yu Xiaogong. Teacher, what is your opinion? If there's a suitable immortal herb, perhaps, it really can solve your problem. Yu Xiaogong fell silent, his clenched fists loosening and tightening, then tightening and loosening again. He knew that at this moment, almost every named power on the Duluo continent was rushing towards the Stardow Great Forest. But there were probably not many people who, like Tang San, knew every kind of immortal great herb like the back of their hand. Although accompanied by danger, it was also their chance to change their destiny. With Flender and Zhao Wuji traveling together, they were sufficient to handle most unexpected situations. After a moment's thought, Yu Xiaogong made a decision. Fine, then let's prepare, and at dawn, we'll head for the Stardow Great Forest. However, your safety must remain the priority. Once we reach the forest, everything must follow my arrangements, no one is to proceed rashly. Yes. Little San, prepare more hidden weapons for self-defense. Okay, I understand. The Shrek 7 devils looked at each other and smiled. They were all filled with anticipation for that unknown precious land. Under everyone's gaze, the light screen in the sky slowly dissipated, and darkness once again enveloped the land. The two elders of Spirit Hall, Yu Guan and Gui Mei, the blazing sun Duluo of the Clear Sky Sect, Ji Yu Rong of the 7 Treasure Glazed Tile School, Yu Luomian of the Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon Clan, and other forces coveting Qin Feng's 100,000-year Spirit Ring and Spirit Bone continued to rush towards the Stardow Great Forest. On the other side, the moment Qin Feng entered the water, he was completely enveloped by that majestic ice and fire energy. The medicinal effects of the 2 immortal herbs were fully activated by the spring water, while simultaneously forming a peculiar layer of protection. Qin Feng's consciousness seemed to sink into a chaotic darkness. All perception of the outside world was temporarily shielded. His body quietly floated within the spring water, allowing that extreme cold and extreme heat to temper it. Every inch of his skin, every piece of bone, and every meridian seemed to be undergoing a transformation silently. Chapter 14. Tempering the body with ice and fire, strengthening the spirit. Stardow Great Forest, Lake of Life. DTN, Xiangjun, Wanyao Wang, Bai Ji, and Kai Wang also saw the silver-haired youth in the light screen. They watched as he naturally condensed his second 10,000-year spirit ring after consuming the herbs and jumped into the yin-yang polar springs. DTN stood with his hands behind his back, watching the light screen dissipate, a trace of doubt flashing in his eyes. To think such a land of fortune was hidden within this forest. Why have we never noticed it? Xiangjun shook his massive head and said in a booming voice. That valley looks very special. It seems to drift in and out of the forest's natural rhythm, as if shielded by some kind of power. If not for this light screen, we might not have discovered it even after another 10,000 years. Wanyao Wang continued. The yin-yang source power contained within that spring seems extremely pure and ancient. Those plants are also extraordinary, brimming with primitive life energy. That place doesn't look like a natural formation, it seems more like the ruins of some ancient being. A hint of worry appeared in Bai Ji's gentle eyes. The way the transformed thunderclap hell vine grows defies our understanding of cultivation. Now that he's exposed again and his strength has increased, likely due to those herbs, greedy humans will be even less likely to let him go. I'm afraid a large number of humans will be coming to the forest soon. DTN's gaze swept over the great beasts, finally settling on Kai Wang. Kai Wang, step up your guard and protect the auspicious beast. The auspicious beast is the focal point of our Stardew's destiny, we cannot allow any mishaps. Yes. Kai Wang did not dare to be negligent. His three heads bowed simultaneously to accept the command, then he transformed into a streak of crimson light and vanished into the depths of the dense jungle. Xiangjun, Wanyao Wang. DTN continued to issue orders. Mobilize the clans under your command to strengthen patrols and security at the edge of the forest's core region. Be on high alert for any human spirit masters entering. If any human powerhouses attempt to go deep, kill them on sight. A fierce light flashed in Xiangjun's eyes as he licked his lips. I've long wanted to tear those arrogant humans to pieces. I'll make sure they never return. Bai Ji. DTN's gaze softened slightly. You should also be prepared to deal with any potential conflicts and casualties at any time. Bai Ji nodded gently in acknowledgement. Having made these arrangements, DTN looked once more toward where the light screen had vanished, his brow furrowing slightly as he thought to himself. Where exactly are that valley and the transformed thunderclap hell vine? The night grew deep. The polar energies within the ice and fire yin-yang well did not turn completely chaotic because of Qin Feng's intrusion. Instead, they maintained a balance in a strange way, as if the youth submerged within had himself become a part of this marvel, merging as one with it. 3 days passed in a flash. The Shrek group of 10, traveling light, had already set out on the road to the Stardew Great Forest. Their goal for this trip was clear. It wasn't the 100,000-year spirit beast in human form who had become everyone's target, but rather that valley containing heaven-defying fortune, the ice and fire yin-yang well. That evening, the setting sun dyed the horizon a golden red. The team stopped by a stream to rest and prepare for the night. Just as everyone had lit the campfire and taken out their dry rations. The familiar and grand golden light screen once again filled the world. It's back again. Daimubai stood up abruptly and looked toward the sky. The miraculous light screen arrived as scheduled, spanning across the firmament. Within the light screen, the scene of the ice and fire yin-yang well, with its red and blue colors and misty atmosphere, was once again revealed to the entire Duluo continent without reservation. Countless gazes were instantly drawn to it. This time, everyone's attention immediately focused on the polar waters that were still churning incessantly. The surging on the water's surface seemed even more violent than before. A heart-palpitating, majestic energy could be faintly felt even through the light screen. He's about to come out. Tang San clenched his fists and stared intently at the sky. Splash. A clear sound of breaking water came from the light screen. At the intersection of the two polar springs, the water surged upward like a fountain. A vigorous figure broke through the surface, carrying steaming water vapor and red-blue light that had not yet fully dissipated as he soared into the sky. Water splashed everywhere, reflecting a brilliant rainbow under the glow of the setting sun and the spring light. The figure traced a graceful arc in midair and landed steadily on the moist ground by the shore. The youth's original clothes had already been completely dissolved in the polar springs. At the moment that blurred figure landed, a green robe was produced from nowhere, appearing in his hand like a magic trick. He draped it casually over himself with fluid movements. The green robe was slightly damp, clinging to his body. At this moment, no one knew how many eyes across the entire continent were fixed firmly on this figure. After 3 days and nights of continuous tempering in the ice and fire polar springs and the complete fusion of the immortal herb's medicinal power, Qin Feng's body had undergone significant changes. He stood there, his posture as upright as a pine tree. The previously somewhat thin youth seemed to have had his physique reshaped, his muscle lines were smooth and full of power. They didn't look overly bulky, yet they appeared incredibly resilient. His skin presented a healthy texture with a faint jade-like luster, seemingly containing both a fiery vitality and a deep chill. His long silver hair hung wetly over his shoulders, with red and blue droplets still dripping from the ends. The droplets slid past his well-defined jaw, dripped onto his collarbone, and finally vanished into his slightly open collar. His face had shed its boyishness, becoming handsome to an almost otherworldly degree. Those slowly opening purple gold eyes flashed with a sharp light, as if they could pierce through reality. Just by standing there, an oppressive aura, a mix of thunderous majesty and the essence of the ice and fire poles, faintly radiated from him. He was both otherworldly and full of charm. Seeing this, Ning Rongrong subconsciously swallowed, her cheeks heating up slightly, yet she found herself unable to look away. Born into the 7 treasure glazed tile school, she had seen countless talented young men, but none had ever given her such a strong visual impact and sense of heart-thumping excitement. Ma Hongjun shook his head and murmured. He's not just okay, this physique, this temperament, it's like he's a different person. He's way too handsome. Yeah, he looks a lot sturdier. Just as San Ji said, after being tempered by those ice and fire springs, he's become stronger again. Oscar couldn't help but let out a sigh of admiration. Xiao Wu glanced at Tang San and noticed that his expression was somewhat unsightly. Within Tang San's usually calm and wise blue eyes, an irrepressible feeling of jealousy was currently surging. The power of ice and fire has already begun to merge into his spirit power source. This was bound to happen. Tang San's voice was a bit dry. Even through the light screen, he could feel that the nature of the youth's spirit power had undergone a fundamental change. It was no longer just the violence of thunder, but now possessed the power of both ice and fire as well. Chapter 15. Blue Silver Emperor, completing the 5 elements thunder. In the light curtain, Qin Feng closed his eyes and took a deep breath. Suddenly, a low rumble of thunder sounded once more, and purple-gold electric light spread out from all around his body. The phantom of the thunderclap hell vine unfurled from behind him without any warning. Those purple-gold vines were even thicker than before. Upon the vines, besides the ceaselessly dancing purple-gold lightning, there were actually wisps of crimson and ice-blue light entwined as well. The crimson flowed like lava, carrying a blazing intensity that could incinerate all things. The ice-blue was like 10,000-year-old profound ice, emitting a deep chill that could freeze the soul. The 2 colored lights were interwoven and entwined, yet remained distinctly separate, illuminating the entire vine like a demonic plant from mythology. Majestic, domineering, and filled with a destructive beauty. The power of ice and fire has truly integrated into his spirit. Watching the scene in the light curtain, Daimubai cried out in shock. It's not just integrated, it's a perfect fusion, and they can be activated independently or complement the thunder. The quality of his spirit has likely risen to an unimaginable level. Tang San's face was full of envy. His spirit, blue silver grass, was also a plant-type spirit, just like the thunderclap hell vine. How he longed to be like that silver-haired youth, obtaining the power of ice and fire to turn ordinary blue-silver grass into a powerful spirit. Outside the light curtain, across the continent, exclamations of wonder rang out one after another. Countless spirit masters and experts were so shocked by this plant-type spirit, which possessed the triple attributes of thunder, ice, and fire, that they were speechless. This had completely exceeded their understanding of spirits. Feeling the surging power and the more intuitive sense of control coming from his spirit, a satisfied expression appeared on Qin Feng's face. With another thought, the phantom of the thunderclap hell vine slowly dissipated, and the 3-colored light also withdrew. Qin Feng's gaze was calm as it swept over the dazzling array of exotic flowers and herbs in the valley. Finally, it settled on a patch of vines at the edge of the herb garden that shimmered with a faint golden-brown light. There sat a small, fist-sized melon that was golden all over. It was exactly the Earth Dragon Golden Melon. Seeing where Qin Feng was looking, Tang San's heart tightened suddenly, nearly jumping out of his chest. Please don't pick it. However, things went against his wishes. Qin Feng walked straight over. He leaned down and carefully plucked that small golden melon. The small melon felt heavy in his hand, and faint, warm, and thick energy fluctuations emanated from it. Afterward, he took the Earth Dragon Golden Melon, walked to a relatively flat open space, sat cross-legged, and without any hesitation, bit directly into it and began to chew in large mouthfuls. The golden pulp melted in his mouth, and a warm current rapidly surged into his limbs and bones. Qin Feng entered a state of cultivation once more. As the medicinal effects were absorbed, a layer of earthy yellow halo enveloped his body. San Ji. Ma Hongjun, watching Qin Feng eat the golden melon raw in the light curtain, couldn't help but ask. That golden lump, what kind of treasure is it this time? How does he dare to eat anything? Tang San's heart felt a pain like it was being twisted by a knife as he squeezed words out from between his teeth. That is the Earth Dragon Golden Melon, a top-tier Earth attribute immortal herb. Legend has it that it grows by absorbing the dragon chi of the Earth's veins and the primal energy of chaos, containing a trace of Earth Dragon power and chaos bloodline. After consuming it, one can not only significantly increase spirit power but also mend defects in one's cultivation foundation, strengthen control over the earth element, and even trigger a spirit evolution. Earth Dragon Power. Chaos Bloodline. Spirit Evolution. Oscar's mouth fell wide open.